as clinics have opened up, what they're finding is that it's difficult to start getting patients back in because they're still very hesitant, and rightfully so. I mean, it's just it's a pretty bad infection, and we still don't have a control. There's so much unknown about it,
Yeah.
and so that drives a lot of fear for patients. And so one thing that we work very strongly with our clients is that when you're messaging your patients about reopening, it's really important not just to let them know, hey, we're open and then closed, that's it. You need to let them know what you are actually doing to make sure that their safety is at the center of the focus. And there's a lot of different practices, doing things of, zero contact check-ins and being able to do as much of the process as you can while the patient is sitting in their own car. So we're offering a solution where when patients arrive for their appointment, for their physical appointment, they can do a lot of that pre-appointment paperwork and things right in their car, so they're not unnecessarily exposed by sitting in the waiting room. And then right when the doctor is ready to see them, the patient will get a message, and the patient can proceed right from the car right into the exam room and not have to get any unnecessary exposure. And so I think explaining these kind of processes that you've put into place is really important, because talking to a lot of folks from both on the East Coast and West Coast, they've done a lot of surveys for patients, asking them, are you ready to come in? And most of it's around routine checkups, and a vast majority of patients, and this is true for even in areas that are not impacted by COVID, the patients are just a little bit hesitant. They just don't, they don't want to take unnecessary risk. And particularly when the appointment is kind of like an annual wellness visit, it's like an annual mammogram, where for the patient, it's not, there's no urgent need to do it today, and it can be delayed. So a lot of patients are delaying it. And so I think it's important for us, when we are trying to get patients back in the door, that we educate them that, we are doing things to help ensure that their exposure is down to a low, and that they can still get the healthcare they need without being unnecessarily put at risk of getting a COVID infection. I was completely telehealth before even all
Oh,
this happened.
oh,
but
okay. Well, lucky.
but I can speak to some of what our clients are doing. It's very interesting
Okay.
because, again, because things are shifting constantly. And so a lot of our clients have become very agile, and being able to shift their appointments from one appointment type to another appointment type. And they've got a good sense of when, for a particular visit, it's better for it to be done in person versus it's better for it to be done virtually. But what they've done is they've designed a workflows to be able to kind of take the waves of the different mandates that come from the government that says, hey, look, today, we're going to start shutting down more. And so this mandate is going to be in place for the next 2 weeks. And so for these practices that have already scheduled in-person visits, they have created ways to be able to suddenly transition a lot of those patients to telehealth visits and back and forth. And I think that's really important because, the end of this is not really clear because there's so much still, again, unknown about this. So I think it's really important for practices to understand that you need to figure out how telehealth can take a stronger hold, but also not just, and I think a lot of folks have jumped on, implementing telehealth in their practices, but what's even more important than that is being able to figure out how you can kind of shift from one model to the other as on a need basis, because it's going to happen where, we're going to see more waves of the infection coming. And so suddenly it'll be safer and better delivery of healthcare for the patient to do that visit from home. But
Mhm.
then once the infection rates start coming down, it's probably better for the patient to come back in. And so understanding like what are the nuances and being able to do that, and having the facile workflows in place so that you can kind of quickly shift from one to another. And so I think that's really important to like make that core to strategy, because what we've seen is that in the early phase, when all the clinics started shutting down, they started looking at telehealth, and then they bought, they invested in a telehealth vendor and they started using it. And now as clinics are starting to open up, they're kind of closing that part of their practice, or they're scaling it down. But I think what's really important is that you got to figure out how you can kind of shift from one to the other, because it's going to happen where the infection rates are starting to go up, and you're going to have to figure out how to shift all the way back one way and the other. And so to be able to kind of take the waves and ties that come with this is going to be really important.